My name is Anouradha Bakshi. I live in New Delhi, India. But I grew up across the world in many countries. Then I came back and settled in India as a grown woman. I had a successful profession and was doing well till one day I decided to put a stop to that life and to create something that I simply called Project Y. Project Y is an organization that basically teaches slum children. It is the people from the community and from the slums itself who are trained to take on the task of teaching the children and thus empowering them to carry on the message even after they have left us or we are gone. It is 900 children, 150 women, 20 young people with disabilities, and about 20 tiny tots. In all, it is more than 1,000 souls. Why Project Y? There are many reasons, but the first one is because I was taught, on the one hand, to look with my heart as a small child, and on the other hand, I was taught to fall in love with India from thousands and thousands of miles away, where the image of India was given to me by two parents who also were madly in love with India, of this beautiful country with values and emotions and everything that you should fall in love with. So when I first saw in India as a young girl, I did not see what I had thought I would see. And there were these very, very disturbing and very, very deafening whys that really did not match at all what my parents told me. I saw a sort of an ersatz of the West and probably not the nicest part of it. The why of Project Y also comes when I decided to find my roots tucked away in a little village in Bihar, and when I saw that women who were barely older than me were grandmothers, had tired faces, and had lives with absolutely no hope. The why of Project Y came when I first met a beggar child, or not a child, he was a young man, whose heart-rending cries seared my soul and threw a challenge to me saying, "Hey woman, do you think you can do something for him?" And by that something I meant, can you give him a warm bed? Can you give him a table to sit around with friends? And can you give him hope and dignity when he dies? And somehow that's how Project Y started.
इसमें बताना है साबुन और अपमार्जक में कौन सा ज़्यादा श्रेष्ठ है और क्यों? हाँ, स्वाति।
साबुन एवं अपमार्जक में अपमार्जक ज़्यादा श्रेष्ठ है क्योंकि ये मृदु और कठोर जल दोनों में अभिक्रिया कर सकता है, लेकिन साबुन केवल मृदु जल में अभिक्रिया करता है।
I had to get the trust of the community, and that is how the other whys happened. Wise education, not the way it should be. And up came an education center support. Why are children with disabilities not cared for? And thus started the daycare for disabilities. Why are two women who are absolutely without hope and have no place to stay, not helped by anyone? And that's how the Women's Center started. And as things went on, the idea was never to give up. And when the person had cynically told you, how can you change India? You had simply answered, one person at a time, one child at a time. You started writing letters to friends of your husband and friends of the friends of your husband. Then you dip a little deeper into the pockets that are getting completely depleted. 3 years went by and the permissions were got, and the permissions to get money from outside India, and a network started being built. But it was really, and it still is, a very hand-to-mouth organization, because I had made two decisions. One was that I would never do anything which would be, in inverted commas, illegal, because often you have to pay under the table if you want certain things, and that was a big no-no for me. And secondly, I wanted people to trust me. I did not want impersonal funding. I used to tell my funders, listen, if you give me money for pencils, but I have to save somebody's life, well, the money is going to go to save somebody's life. So if you're not okay with that, then I don't want your money.
Sophia ji, primary teacher. Sonia ma'am, secondary teacher. Provir, secondary teacher. And Sita ji, primary teacher.
Having chosen to have staff from within the community, my staff didn't have training. My staff didn't have degrees. What I had done is picked up a woman who had dropped out of school in class 10, not because she was not intelligent, but because her parents married her. I told her, well, you've done class 10, come and teach the primary sections. And that's the kind of staff I had. So I had to find a network of people who came and saw my work and believed in what I did. We are a family of over 1,000 beneficiaries. We have 50 staff, which are both the teaching staff and support staff. This could not have happened if Project Y had not opened its doors to the world. We have volunteers coming from all over the world, as young as 16, as old as 72, come and spend a month, a few days, and go back. A little change, all of them had said. Many young people have told me that spending time at Project Y has given them direction in what their lives would be in the future. The older people have gone back and said, listen, we see the way you're struggling and we're going to do something to help you. We've grown a wonderful network, which I say it's a network of people who see with their heart, from my favorite quote from The Little Prince. So many people who know Project Y only through my writings. That's my only, let's say, fundraising technique. I'm not page 3 person. I don't know how to wear my high heels and put my makeup and, you know, flutter my lashes and go to cocktail parties and talk about my organization, which is the organization. No, that's not who I am. I write about my successes, but I write more about my failures. I write about where I've gone wrong. And it's amazing how many people have got endeared to Project Y, because they write back to me and say, listen, you know, you write about things that are not nice, and that is what we admire about you. The biggest lesson of Project Y was to be scrupulously honest about everything, and that has gained me a lot of support. But it's not only a support story, it's also a story of a lot of difficult moments, of a lot of challenges, and unfortunately the challenges came from where one would not expect them. The local political people have given virtually hate speeches against me. Every spoke has been put in my wheel simply for one reason: I empower people. I take people who are cleaning homes and make them teachers. I get women to vote for who they want and not for whom their husband wants. So you become dangerous. You are somebody who's going to change the social fabric, and nobody wants you there. Quite frankly, for a person who was brought up with that great image of India, finding my detractors amongst the people I thought would have been the supporters was difficult to take. When my school was bulldozed, it was on Christmas Eve, 2005. I think that was the time I just shed tears seeing that whole structure come down.
A homologous series is a group or family of compound which containing the same functional group, and these containing the same chain length but different physical chemical properties.
Okay, good.
The challenges are mostly, of course, for resources, because you're not a big enough project, you're not a pretty enough project. We don't have buildings. One of our schools is in a garbage dump. One of our schools is tucked away, you know, in a little village. What happens to it 6 months or 10 years down the line? Well, Project Y will be taken over by the very people who have run it till now, people who are from the slums, people who have been trained, and my biggest success stories. The other challenges, of course, are to see that education in India is not happening. If you go and get children educated, there's something wrong. The policies are not right. The figures are not right. Is there actually an agenda to keep a large amount of the people without education so that you could manipulate them when you want votes? I'm so very proud when a child comes to me, one of my old students says, "Ma'am, I've got a job in a bank, or I'm now working in the newspaper as a journalist," and kids are working and doing so well when their parents are just vegetable vendors or people who iron other people's clothes on the street. I had the worst profile to run an organization like me. I'm not a businesswoman. I am a recluse, a sort of, an only kid. And if I could find a reason to get out of my comfort zone, to get out of the box and do something, and anybody who has any idea or anything that they want to do just have to go a little deeper inside. So for me to take a bowl and go soliciting for my children was basically probably the biggest challenge I had to do. But then all I had to do was just think of my children, look into their eyes, look at their trust, and I could just climb any mountain you would have asked me to. So if you want it, it's not difficult, just go for it.
Body with the boot now.